I can't believe hi. Sorry, I was chatting. Welcome back to, what are we at? Episode 46? 46 tonight. We're filming at night this time.
Yes, we hope it's not as echoey.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Yeah, well, here goes nothing. Okay, friends.
Hey there, welcome back to Called to Homeschool, episode number 46. Today we're going to be talking about habits to teach your children.
And this is great. Like, we've talked about habits a lot, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to know what's funny? I actually contacted an author about that wrote one of the habits books. Not the Atomic Habits, but I think the Power of Habits.
You told me this.
And I emailed them and I said, this book is amazing. Let's co-write a book together about children. And he politely declined. But my offer's still out there, sir. So I think Charles Duhigg, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So he politely declined my offer.
At least you got an answer.
He did. He said he personally answers all emails. So I thought,
that's pretty cool.
What's it going to hurt if I email him? So anyways, it's just habits and children and homeschool. Like,
it kind of just all rolls into one thing.
Yes.
Because when you're homeschooling and your kids are home all day, you need them to have good habits, or your days are not going to go very well.
That's what I think of when I see Instagram posts from cute moms, and they're great moms, and their kids are at school, right, all week, and then they're like, 3-day weekend, shoot me now. And it's like, because you don't have those good habits with your kids. Mm-hmm. Like, you're on, somebody called it cruise director.
Yeah.
Because you're just there for the weekend to
Christmas
entertain.
Song, Mom and Dad can hardly wait for school to start again.
Yes.
Every time I hear that, I'm like, oh, I don't feel that way. Well, mine are always there.
Yeah.
And I kind of like having a break from school. But I think it's the same concept of, like, your kids are used to being there and they have their routines and they have their habits. And so them being home with you is not this miserable, awful thing. It's just part of life.
It is.
Right?
And I love it. Like,
mm-hmm.
I don't know. I cherish it. And I do have to think back, like, when mine were all little, it was different. Mm-hmm. Like, it was much more challenging.
Definitely.
And I remember when I had number 6. So, like, he's 3 years a little bit behind everybody. Mm-hmm. So I'm, like, homeschooling 5 kids, this big chunk of kids. And I thought, I just need to find a co-op where you guys are gone for 2 hours. And it was enough for me. Once a week, they were gone for 2 hours. And I was like, okay. And I'm refreshed. And I just needed it for a few months while he was a baby. Mm-hmm. But so I get it. If they're all little, you're kind of in that phase of, like, habit training. But you're in the habit training phase.
Yeah, definitely.
And so now that I'm on the other end of it, I'm like, bring it on.
You've still got the little ones, but you have big ones,
yeah, too. I was going to say, we just traveled with him, mm-hmm. and he's like our doted upon grandchild nephew, right? And so he was a dream on the trip.
Oh, that's nice.
Because everybody played with him, and we're home all the time together. Mm-hmm. And so, like, he just ate it up because nobody was leaving to work, and nobody was, like, doing their own activities and whatnot. So
that's awesome.
He was a dream.
Well, so we're going to focus today on Charlotte Mason and her habit training because she has some amazing resources for this. If you haven't read her book on this, it's a good one to check out.
It is. It's written in 1800s. So and so just remember that. So just like, I don't know, as I was reading it, it's literally called Habits by mm-hmm. Charlotte Mason. And it's like it takes me a second to think of how would we say this in our day.
Right. It's one that you're not going to just breeze on through. It'll take a little time to sift through the language, but it's got some great information.
It's totally worth it though. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then another just little reference. This is a book that I was telling Megan I've used this with my kids on and off for a little while, but it's called Laying Down the Rails for Children, and you can find this. I'll put a link to it, but at Simply Charlotte Mason, and it's like workbook format. And it's something you can do daily with your children, where it has little quotes and poems and scriptures and things that you can study and learn about various habits with your kids. It has some really good information. Some of it I kind of sifted and skipped, just depending on your needs and your family.
But we kind of do that with all our homeschool stuff.
But yeah, there was definitely some good, valuable information in these books, and I liked them.
Yeah, and an episode, was it last month, I believe, we talked about consistency, not perfection. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to dive deeper with that kind of concept because you're either consistently getting better or consistently getting worse, depending on what those little habits are. And isn't it funny that it's like these little tiny things that mm-hmm. like you maybe after dinner you turn on the TV and then your habit is like we just binge watch television at night versus after dinner we're in the habit of we all clean up together and we play a game. Like which one is going to give you the long-term results that you actually want?
Yeah. I think that's really great. So we're going to talk a little bit about brain connections, and I think this is a really cool concept. But when you think about this, like, you know, which direction they're going, and every day they're learning new things, and whether they're learning good things or bad things, whether they're learning from a TV show or from a book, they're learning and they're progressing in some way. And so we want to help guide those things that they're learning and guide their progress and their, I don't know, I'm losing my words. I'm sorry. But you want to just guide them in the right direction. And habits are one way that you can do that. And giving them good habits with the skills that they're learning is a really important thing. So
yeah, well, it's just really great because if you think about it, when you have a good habit, you don't have to think.
Yes.
And so, like, as a mom, if your kid spills and you're in a habit of, like, the way you want to respond is to, like, oh, no big deal. We just clean it up. Like that, you've made it a habit and you don't have to think, like, hey, don't yell at my kid. Don't, like, freak out. You don't have to think.
Yeah.
And so your brain can just kind of go on autopilot.
And so we want our kids to be learning that same thing. You said it so much better than me.
It's okay. Karen's so sleepy and I just love her.
I'm tired, you guys. No, but I love this, that it takes about 2 months to form a new habit.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you're learning new skills, your kids are going to need some guidance and some direction as they're learning those. And you can't expect them just immediately to be good at this new thing you want them to do, right?
Right.
It's going to take some time, and you're going to probably have to be by their side helping them for the first little while until it becomes a normal thing for them. You want it to be a habit that when they drop something on the floor, they stop and they pick it up instead of just walk on past. My 15-year-old today, I couldn't believe it. He walked by the kitchen counter and he knocked over a water bottle. He looked at it and then he kept walking. And I was like, hey, you going to stop and pick that up, buddy? And he's like, oh, sorry. And went back and picked it up. Like, just such a silly little thing. But I'm like, that's one of those things that you just want it to be like, oh, I dropped it, so I'll pick it up. Normally he's just fine. That's out of the norm for him. He's normally a very clean person, but it was just so funny to me. So that, you know, when you're creating these habits with your children, you want to think about that. You know, are you creating these patterns that become...
Well, if you think about it too, like if it only takes 2 months to really form that habit,
long, really.
It's not that habit. Oh, sorry, it's not that long. And so, if like a skill that's going to benefit you the rest of the time that they live there and for the rest of their life, like 2 months, like that's nothing.
It's worth it. It's worth a little effort for 2 months to help them accomplish this.
Yes, and great news because sometimes we talk about like with older kids, some things are a little bit easier, but with habit training, it's actually easier with little kids because you can nip a bad habit in the bud. I always thought that was butt, by the way. I always thought
you
it was
did?
like nip a habit in the butt. And somebody was like, what did you just say? I was like, I don't know. In the bud, awesome. So you can stop it before it actually becomes a bad habit. Mm-hmm. So that's like, for those of you with just small children, you finally are getting thrown a bone.
Yep. So here are some of the habits that Charlotte Mason really stressed to teach her children. She has a lot of them.
I want to say it was like 80.
Lot. Yeah, there's a whole lot of them.
We're gonna go with 5.
Yeah, we're gonna pick a few that we feel are important, that are some really good ones. Number 1, we've got obedience.
Obedience.
Obviously, a very important one, right?
Yes, and some like an easy way to teach obedience is being consistent. Mm-hmm. Like first of all, what are the rules? Because if your rules change, then it's hard to be obedient because it's like, yesterday I knocked over the water bottle and you didn't care, but today you care.
Yeah.
And so being very clear with what are the rules in our house. Mm-hmm. So like if you have a rule, we don't jump on the couch. Like, so every time they jump on the couch, it's like, oh, remember couches are for sitting.
That's our rule.
Yeah, that's
right.
Our rule.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's being consistent is an easy way to teach obedience.
But then it's also important to praise them when they do right. Because it seems like we always are picking at the negatives and never praising for the good, right? And so praise them for the good because then they'll want to do it more often.
Yes, and just like, well, I think we've talked about that too. You know, like if I'm like, oh, Karen, you look so pretty and I love you so much and you're so nice, then Karen's like, oh, what do you need help with, Meg? Like, you're much more
I'll give you anything.
Yeah, here's my money. You're the best friend ever. No, but like you're more inclined to help somebody that you know that they love you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so I just think when you're like, oh, Karen, thank you so much for doing this, and then she asked me to do something, and there's some give and take there.
Yeah, and then it's also important to help them understand why it's important to be obedient, why you want them to follow this rule.
I mean, I just literally had to do that with my 8-year-old the other day.
I have one today too.
Okay, yes. And like he said, so right now he can only play with friends 2 times a week. So if you go to the Levels of Liberty, like that's one of his privileges is to earn more days with friends.
Mm-hmm.
But right now he can only go twice a week. And he was just like, why? Like, are they bad kids? I don't get why. And I was like, no, they're awesome. I love these kids. But here's what happens when you go with them. You change, you harass the baby. Like, here are all these things that go down. And he just went, oh, yeah, I do. I do all of those things. And it was just like...
That's great that he recognized
Well,
it.
I mean, but it wasn't attacking. Like, hey, little dummy, like, you did this. It was like, did you notice when we went out of town and you didn't play with your friends that you never harassed the baby? Like, tripping the baby. I don't, like, it's so sad. And he's so big and fat. Like, he just goes straight down. And it's, like, so sad. But, like, he was able to see with that comparison, like, okay, I get it.
We had a good, sad kind of learning moment today. I was driving kids places, and we were in a school zone, and so there was a lot of traffic, and there was a car parked along the side of the road, and a lady was pulling out and didn't see me driving. I was driving very slowly, but I could see her coming, and she didn't see me, and so I put on the brakes very quickly, and my 6-year-old had not buckled her seatbelt yet. We had just kind of shortly gotten in the car, but she hadn't buckled her seatbelt, and she went flying, and she hit her head really hard.
Oh, darn it.
And just started sobbing. And I don't think she was hurt as bad as she was crying. I think a lot of it was fear. But it was a really good moment for me to teach her, this is why it's really important that we wear a seatbelt, you know, because she suddenly was realizing, oh, I can really get hurt if I don't wear a seatbelt. And I've talked about it many a time to her. You know, every time we get in the car, is your seatbelt on? I didn't that day or today, obviously. I'd forgotten in that moment, but it's a moment where you can teach, and when you have those teaching moments, it's great to take them and to help them really understand the why of this rule.
Yeah, and sometimes it does have to be a bump on the head, unfortunately.
She's totally fine. Nothing was hurt. She didn't even have a bruise. She's okay. But it was a good moment for teaching.
But I even think that with the obedience with the older kids of why can't I just be on my phone? And like why, you know, and giving them that why. And even if you need to pull out some like statistics and facts and whatnot, and depression with teens that are on their phone a lot, and the kind of person you're becoming and the habits you're building with that, right? And so that why, no matter what age, obviously like my 2-year-old doesn't completely understand the why, but you can start with those obedience of just being consistent. Like, oh, we don't do this.
Yeah.
Okay, the second one is observation. And I love this one.
I like this one too. It's a good one.
So it's from that relationship that children will begin to care for their world and taking care of it.
So what does that mean? So I see this as they will see a need and fulfill it without being asked.
So remember the book Dog Poop Initiative? It's a real, like, it's a book. I have it. And a soccer game, a dog pooped on the soccer field.
Okay.
And everybody was like, somebody should take care of that.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody should take care of that. And finally a dad went and got like a plastic bag, picked up the poop and threw it away. And was like, we're all somebody.
We're all somebody, yes.
So to me, like, the observation is like, instead of saying somebody should do something about this, like, I should do something about this. And kind of looking at that from a personal, like, somebody should clean this kitchen. You know what? My hands are not painted on. Like, I could clean this kitchen.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to teach your kids. I don't think they learn that easily, though. That's something I feel like I'm still working on often with my kids. Like, you know, you see a mess and you walk over it instead of stop and pick up the thing you tripped over. You just leave it there and trip over it again, right? And so just helping them understand that concept of, if there's something there, you know, you observed it, you actually tripped over it, taking the moment to put it where it belongs instead of letting the next person trip over it, or you again, you know. But for some reason, kids struggle with this one. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting too, like, if they see you doing something. So my husband lived in Ecuador for 2 years, and they just threw their garbage wherever. And it was just filthy. And so litter to him, like, he does not like litter. And if he's running, if he's hiking, he will pick it all up. And like, we will take it with us, and we've gone to some hot pots before, and we brought plastic bags to clean up other people's litter, right? We're going home with like beer cans, right?
That's funny. Yeah.
But guess what my kids do now? They pick up litter.
That's amazing.
And so when we go on our run, they're picking up garbage they see, and they're doing this because dad is doing it. And so sometimes they can do it by just seeing it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you teach by example.
Observation 2 is things out in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Of something beautiful. Like, God made this.
Yeah.
A beautiful bird. Like, it's inspiring. Have you seen a sunset before and you're just like,
Yeah.
there are no words to describe.
Or been in like the most beautiful place you've ever been, and you're just looking out and it's unreal. You know? Yeah.
Yes. And just like
teaching them to
amazing.
Appreciate what they observe. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
All right. The next one is routines. I think routines are really important, and we've talked, a lot about this as well, I think. But having a regular routine, kids are going to know what's expected of them and know what's going to happen throughout their day. And being used to that routine, they get up and they go, and they know what to do when they get up. Like, for instance, you get up, you get dressed, you do your morning chores, you eat your breakfast, you brush your teeth. Like, that's just the morning routine. And if they know that, then that's just going to come naturally to them each day when they get up.
Yeah, and that may be why some of the cute public school moms struggle with the weekends. Because their routine is getting up, getting ready, eating breakfast, and going.
Right.
And now it's like, well,
now
what do I do? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yes, I love having that routine. And so we've gotten to a point, too, where I don't have to get up so early to exercise. Like, I can sleep until like 6:30 now.
Wahoo.
I know. I'm living large. But I can come home and the little ones have like gotten the baby ready. They have eaten. They've gotten their chores done. They're dressed and ready to go. So I can come home. I grab a protein drink and we start school.
That's great.
So I love it. Like, really, but I mean, like I said, you have to take the time to train them so that you can reap the benefit of it. Okay, number 4 is excellence. And this is teaching them the habit of doing your best, which is so good. Like,
it is so good.
In life, to always do your best. Can you imagine, like, if you really showed up that way? Like, it just, in your schoolwork, do your best.
Yeah, and I think that's just a really important thing for kids to understand as well. And I've said that about every single one of these. Goodness.
That's why
listen
we
to
picked
me.
these 5. Karen's like, this is a good episode. You guys should listen.
This is so good. We're so good. No, but for reals, I just think teaching your kids to always do their best, like, what else do you want out of life but to do your best?
Yeah.
I have always in my life sought to do my best. There's times when I'm obviously not at my best. But if you're an example of that to your children and you're always striving yourself to do your best and not just giving it a half effort, they're going to see that and they're going to learn that from you and value that. And
yeah, it's just great, like, with your schoolwork and ways to teach that, I think, too, like, if somebody does really sloppy penmanship. And it's like, oh, look, we can just redo this. And it's like, wait, what? Because there's no schedule. Like, we don't just have to turn in our assignment and get it done, right? Like, no, we're going to do our best.
Yeah, it's not about just getting it done. I had to learn that. My oldest is, he's kind of a sloppy, fast worker.
Okay.
He's very quick at getting his work done, but most of the time, it's very sloppy. And mostly right, but just a mess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And often, like, if he would get problems wrong in his math, it would just be because he was hurrying through it and not taking the time to actually think it through. And so that's something I've had to work on with him a lot. And he's gotten a lot better as he's gotten older. But I wasn't good about making him redo his handwriting and things like that. And his handwriting is atrocious. It's terrible. He's left-handed. We blame it on that, but not really.
I didn't know he was left-handed.
He is left-handed. I have
Are you
2
right-handed?
lefties. Yeah.
So is that tricky to teach him?
Yeah. I have 2 left-handed
that could be like
kids.
a whole episode.
It's hard.
Karen. I'm like
I could do an
curious
episode on
about this now.
Anyway,
None of mine are lefties, but
I think it's been good for him to recognize, like, oh, I have to put in a little more effort. And it's not that he couldn't do well. It was just that he didn't give it his best and he didn't put in his best effort. And when he did, he recognized, I can do better if I take a couple of minutes. And he says that himself. He's like, I know my handwriting's bad, but if I slow down, I can make it look good. He recognizes it.
He knows.
So
he's a bright kid. Yeah, he knows. But I think doing your best too with like your housework and like it just starts spilling over. Because then it's like doing your best in life, or do you just Netflix binge? Like that's not your best,
right?
You know, like you have to be honest with yourself.
Doing the best with how you spend your time each day.
Yeah,
is, I think important as well.
And it's not the perfection, right? But like doing your best.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5.
And last one is free time. And this is really about kids knowing how to be bored.
Yes.
Think of summer vacation and those days where they're just bored out of their minds. But if a kid is used to that and boredom comes and they know what to do with it, instead of whining and complaining, they find a way to fill it, then I think that's a good thing. Or else they just allow it and their brain is okay with a little downtime. It's really good for them.
Well, it's just, we live in such an interesting age, and I love all my modern conveniences, so please don't take them away. But like, if I'm cold in the car, I can turn on seat warmers, and in Johnny's fancy car, the steering wheel even heats up.
I would love that.
Right? And so I'm like, I can be a little bit 1 degree up, 1 degree down, and get that perfect temperature.
Right.
If the sound is a little bit off, we can get the perfect sound, right? Like, we never really have to be uncomfortable.
Right.
And so boredom, like, we don't have the skill of being bored. And so I've even noticed teaching my kids, because they'll even like try to do something that's like on a computer, but it's so funny to me, like they want to write a story, but all of a sudden then it becomes checking their email, and it becomes chatting with all their friends. And so I've kind of stopped that. And so it's been freezing cold here and snowing, and the boys went and got their snow clothes on and then played outside for hours today. And so I think you have to, like, we have so much.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much entertainment and so many things to just constantly...
You have to take it out from time to time and allow your mind to still.
Because that's where creativity stems from, is that boredom.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes the naughty stuff too, but like, I'm okay with that. But like, tree houses have been built out of boredom. I'm trying to think of all the crazy
Snow
things.
caves.
Like snow caves.
My kids build snow caves and we get a lot of
Yes.
snow.
Mine did, we have a little tote goat, and they built a jump one day. Like, so just, but it's like, can I do this? Can I experiment with this?
Yeah.
And they learned about physics.
That's
Their
great.
jump was not great.
I love it.
But there's a skill of being bored, and just with the habit of like, Mom, I'm bored, and just being like, okay, cool.
If my kids tell me that, they know that I'm going to give them a job. So they never even say it to me anymore.
Smart.
Oh, I've got things to keep you busy.
Yeah. Never mind.
No, I'm good.
So the official Charlotte Mason steps to habit formation, which are used to break bad habits and replace them with good habits. She has 8 of them. So we're going to just quickly tell you those 8 things.
Number 1, commit ourselves to the time and energy required for the task, and don't begin until we are committed.
I love that. So like, if you have a new baby, give it a minute. Because you may not be committed to actually teaching them this.
Yeah.
Like, if you have just recovered from something, give yourself a minute. So when you're like ready, like, okay, now is a good time. We're gonna go, and don't like give yourself excuses, but like, okay, I don't have a newborn. I have a minute. Like, I'm in this. So I think, like, commit to it. Number 2, pray for strength and perseverance. Right, of being patient and like, I got this.
Yeah, we all need a little bit of extra prayer and strength, right?
Yeah, that one you just can't go wrong.
Yeah. Number 3, talk with the child. Form a mother-child team determined to acquire the good habit. I think this is great if you communicate to your child what's happening and they understand as well. It's just so important for them to be on the same team and be.
And I think that's why that connection is so big, because then you can be on the same team. And like how we talked about, both of our kids like struggled with the seatbelt and playing with friends, but we're on the same team, and so they're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But you need to have that relationship.
Right.
Number 4, don't allow the bad habit. I don't understand that next part.
Or expect the new good habit is the second half of this.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna allow them to keep doing the bad habit, but at the same time, when you're teaching